TECH4ED webinar series. So, medyo kinakabahan po ako, parang ako po yata yung mauuna for for October. Siyempre, it's October 1, but I stand up and took this as a challenge. So, basically, our topic is data analytics using Microsoft Excel. So, because there are a lot of tools that we can use to do data analytics, you could basically do programming, you could use off-the-shelf software, whether it's an internet online or cloud-based or it is offline, just like Microsoft Excel. But I selected Microsoft Excel so that if we're going to have a series of training with data science and data analytics, we could actually start from the very basic going to the more advanced type of applications. But of course, before we start with, I would like to present now. Ma'am Ranalyn, can you please confirm if you could see my screen, please? So that everyone can you see the presentation now, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I
Yes,
see it.
thank you. So the brief introduction would be that long. So I'll make this very brief. So introduction to data science, because this is the root of why we're going to data analytics today. So this is our topic outline, including the definition of data science, why we should be excited about data science, why we need to learn data science, and the 5 V's of big data. As I have attended Amazon Web Services seminar, there is already 7 V's, or even they say there could be 18 V's of data. So it's endless because it continuously to grow and evolve and to change, and the way how technology is using data and the different business organizations are using data, then it continues to evolve to define the different characteristics of data. And lastly, we're going to define the different types of data, because these are very peculiar things that we need to know if we are going to deal with data analytics. So to begin with, I'm going to define data science. You're gonna see here what are the different components that interplay when it comes to doing data science. Basically, data science is the science which uses computer science, statistics, machine learning, visualization, and human-computer interaction to collect, clean, integrate, analyze, visualize, interact with data to create data products. The very end goal is to create data products. What are these data products? These data products that provides us the pattern, the predictions, the forecast, the intelligent information that will allow the user to see the relationship and pattern and links on the data, and the predictions that can be made out of this data, whether it is historical or present data, so that we can make informative decisions. So there are so many elements that interplay. It says computer science because data science might involve computer programming, including machine learning, of course. So you need to do programs, something like programming with Python, with TensorFlow, in order for you to create a computer program that is very intelligent, that will allow you to analyze data intelligently. So visualization is a very important component, because when we would like to provide information, it should be visually appearing. It should be intuitive in nature. Meaning to say, with just a single glance, nalulugi na pala tayo with a single glance. Uy, kumikita pala tayo sa quarter 3 dito sa region 3 at sa region 4. Paano kaya ang gagawin natin sa iba? With just a single look. There is human-computer interaction. Why? Because it's very important when we do data analytics and we visualize data, there should be an interaction between the user and the visual output or the data products that you have created. So what do we mean by that? We mean by having filters that I would like to display only sales in quarter 3 in Southeast Asia. I would like to display the data in Southeast Asia and in America only. So I would like to compare this data versus against this data. I could basically set that on screen, or kaya naman I could say that I would like to display only January, February, March sales among the 12-month sales in a year. So those are the interaction that will be created with human-computer interaction components, because human-computer interaction components is actually referring here to the user interface, and the user experience that shall be provided by the data visualization and data analytics output that we're going to create. And that is basically data science. Most of the components that are mentioned here, visualization, human-computer interaction, analyzing, visualizing, and interacting data will be done by us today with the actual demonstration. So data analysis is not a new concept. It is time immemorial, but of course, it grows and grows and develop better and better as technology and computer hardware and software and computer programming develops as well. Most especially with the advent of the internet, everything balloons up, most especially the data that we collect, which requires mandatory analysis of data so that we could understand our data better, so that we could understand the people using this data better, so that we could understand how our company works better. So why all the excitement about data? Simply the reason why is that the amount of data produced by the world exceeded 2.5 exabyte day by day, and it's still growing. Actually, this data is only based on 2015, wherein we're going to see that it is raising up to the highest level that we are actually the world is producing about 8,000 zettabytes of shared data across the internet. And why does it happen? Why did it happen? Because uh, let us consider the figure here at the bottom left, that how much data is generated with every minute. So hashtag big data. So you're going to see that there are so many cloud-based and online applications that all of us people from all over the world are using. And this data has to be analyzed. So how are we going to think that Lazada was able to target all those customers who are looking for this kind of bag with this color, with this size, and give them 20% promotion so that they could raise more sales? So things like that are the things that can be done with good analysis of big data, for example. So why do we need to learn data science? Here is the question. Why do we need to learn data science? Sabi, kasi data is the new oil, literally. So mas marami pang data na napapump kumpara sa oil na na-extract. Okay? So that is basically what is meant to be mentioned here. I'm just trying to zoom it up. If you're going to see on the diagram that even in the US, 50% of kids are given access to smartphone. So when these kids are using games, using educational programs, accessing YouTube, accessing all these kinds of applications, we are actually generating data. So just try to imagine that. And if we're going to look at other parts here, there are, for example, 247 billions of emails are sent every day, up to 80% of which are spams. More of it are advertisements, promotions, and other information that this company are distributing so that if they may be able to entice you. After all, sending emails is free. It's a free service with their subscription, so it won't hurt them if they're going to send 1 million emails a day to all of their contacts, because only 20%, or shall we say 5% of that respond to that email, it will automatically generate voluminous amount of sale for this company. That's why they are using this, and they are not tired of sending it again and again, because this is also automated and not done manually. In just a click of a button, they could blast the email, and this leads to a lot of things that are happening with the collection of large amount of data. Okay, so we're going to proceed on to the next. So this next slide will further prove that data seems to be the new oil. So data is the new oil, literally, according to this particular slide. Our source is the World Economic Forum. And if we're going to look at this, a virtually new world. So in the previous year, 2006, if you're going to look at the bar chart, we're going to see here that the energy sector is actually leading the world's largest listed companies by market capitalization. So something like ExxonMobil is here, General Electric is from the industrial field, Gazprom is from the energy field, and Microsoft is only number 4 that time. But let's take a look right after several years passed with the advent of generation of data. The landscape changed. In 2016, you will see that the top three listed companies based on billions of market capitalization is already Apple, Alphabet, and Microsoft. You might be wondering where is Google here. Actually, Alphabet is the mother company of Google. So other than that, you're going to see Amazon that is rising up same with Facebook. So just try to imagine on the top 10 list, there are already 5 uh, IT-related sector, not including telecoms, not including telecoms because telecoms is a support structure for information technology solutions and companies. So this is based on World Economic Forum, and this is really real. And up to this point, really we could say that it is further growing and growing, even with the advent of the COVID pandemic. You will see that the IT field and the telecom field never stood down, never had a fall, but rather they rise up because much of the applications done in the traditional manner were already diverted and converted and developed into something that is online, cloud-based, so that people can proceed as usual, do business as usual, even at the comfort of their own homes. That's why data is really the new oil in literal sense of the word. So because of that, it is becoming popular. More and more universities, colleges, and institutions are offering data science and in the data science and data engineering as a new course, either in the undergrad level, even in the graduate school level. In Central Luzon, there are already universities offering this as a course already or an integration into the course. Actually, this is being pioneered in the Philippines by IBM before with the inclusion of data analytics in the curriculum as a form of specialization for IT and computer science students. So what can we do with data science? There are a lot of things that we can do with data science. So data science enables you to predict the buying behavior and decision criteria of your prospects weeks before your competition. By doing data science, we will be able to analyze pattern of the buying behavior of our consumer based on the data that we have gathered so that we will be able to make decision criteria as in to increase the amount of promotional discount, uh, to increase to arrange the order of products in the store so that it can be noticed by customers. So things like that can be done. You could also gain first mover advantages by introducing new products and services to micro segments that haven't been identified by competitors. Evaluate the impact of your marketing campaigns early and make adjustment in real time. So this is actually happening, for example, you know what, that's why Lazada is doing that and Shopee is doing that. They are actually posting the 99 sale and they allow people to add to cart so that they will be able to visualize how much product is about to be purchased by the customers. That way, they need not to go what we call this undersupplied or oversupplied with the products, but they could provide the products during the time of sale to the customer in the almost perfect number. So that's the thing. That's why they're doing that. So you could also improve customer experience scores that grow product per customer, reduce attrition, and leverage the power of customer recommendations for new business. And you could also possibly predict likely failures of critical equipment and processes through data science. And that is based on historical data and existing data of the organization. Data that are within the organization and data external to the organization that is capable for collection by your systems. So more and more industries are adopting data science. So if we're going to see here, so here in this particular photo, you're going to see that there is a real-time crowd insights, ano, using facial, tawag dito, what do we call this? Yung pagbasa ng emotion, so ng tao, can actually be done by a software in intelligently through machine learning, that can be recognized and then that be counted. Lahat ng tao na lalapit sa booth, they'll be able to analyze whether the insight of that particular person is good, bad, or neutral. So they will be able to determine how the customer reacts on a specific product. So things like that. That could be another kind of industry for data science. So let's now have the difference between data analytics and statistical analysis, because sometimes we actually mention that statistics plays an important role in data analytics, most especially in higher order form of data analytics, which includes yung prescriptive analytics and diagnostic analytics na tinatawag. So, first and foremost, data analytics utilize data mining techniques. So, meaning to say, the data already exists. You have, sabi nga, you have store or collect, clean or sanitize, then organize the data. Then when it is already ready, the data is ready, then you could actually mine the data in order for you to identify inexplicable or novel relationship or trend. So that's basically the purpose. You would like to know, kumikita kaya tayo sa specific product na to? Are we earning profit from this product or are we losing sales on this product? Which all among the different provinces of the region where we operate, we earn the most and we earn the least. So things like that, novel relationship and trends on the data. So it also seeks to visualize the data to allow the observation of relationship and trends. So that's the other thing that we can actually do. That's the bare goal. We should be able to do data analytics if there's something that we can actually visualize in the end. So the result of your analysis is something that is visible, something that is showing intuitively what do you want to show, what do you want to present, what do you want to display, so that the user of that data analytics data product will be something that will help them make decision by seeing the reality from the data that were gathered from the organization. While when we talk about statistical analysis, we're talking about utilization of statistical and or mathematical techniques. So alam naman natin, statistics is based on formula. So starting from the most simple, mean, median, mode, quartile, decile, correlation. So when we talk about already of correlation, when we talk about regression analysis, we're talking about data prediction, creating or training sample data that we can actually use for prediction. So first, you need to calculate that statistically, and then right after that, use that calculation in order for us to make predictions for future operations of the organization. And more importantly, statistics deals with seeking to identify a significant level of, to address hypothesis or research questions. So yun, we're trying to seek answer to a question through research and improving or disproving a given hypothesis. On the second part that we have on the first part that we have mentioned about statistics, that will come into play with data analytics, most especially if you're going to do prescriptive analytics and diagnostic analytics, wherein you're going to predict something out of the existing data and that will affect future data. You are going to use some statistical tools. That's why when we define data science, it is an interplay between, sabi natin, computer science, statistics, etc., etc. So that is basically data analytics versus statistical analysis. So let's now begin with the 5 Bs of big data. So we call it big data, no, because data are being gathered from various sources for an organization, coming from internal and external sources. When we talk about internal sources, we're talking about the different transaction processing systems used by the organization. So all the transactions happening, for example, sa bank, in a bank, halimbawa, Bank A, they are doing loan transaction, insurance transaction, check transaction, deposit transaction, withdrawal transaction, new accounts transaction. Those are internal to the bank. But aside from that, of course, customer will be able to create blog about the services provided by the company. The bank clientele will go to the website of the bank and do something that they provide data, no? Because most of websites na provide a dynamic interaction between the user of the website and of course the website itself. So you also put some tweet on Twitter, you post something on Facebook, you create a blog sa YouTube, etc. Those are external unstructured data which will comprise the volume of data for an organization. So aside from that, we have velocity, variety, veracity, and value. So these are basically the 5 Bs of data which we refer to: the rawness of data that are being collected, the changes of data over time, and the data types that we gathered. The quality of data that we gather should be accurate, or is it inaccurate, and the information for decision making. We can only say that the data, big data, has value if it can be used for making informed decisions. So let's go over it one by one. Now, when we talk about data volume, so these particular illustrations already describe itself, the changing phase of data. So, from before that, we're gathering megabytes of data. Now we are gathering zettabytes of data because in every 60 seconds, there are 98,000 tweets, 695,000 status updates, 11 million IMs, and 698,000 Google searches, etc., etc., which leads to uh, gathering of voluminous data, or what we call big data, for these big organizations that we are actually mentioning. But of course, these are not all about Twitter. This is not all about the Facebook company, but this is all about the big company all around us that uses all of these platform. Makita natin, these are social media platforms and email platforms that are being used that contributes to the gathering of voluminous or big data for every big organization. Whether it is big, whether it is medium size, whether it is entrepreneurial size of data, most probably all of this data are being gathered within your company, and that deserves to be analyzed. So now let's talk about data velocity. So examples of data with high velocity. So example is clickstream and ad impression captures user behavior and millions of events per second. So just try to imagine, for example, there are how many people accessing Lazada, for example, or accessing Shopee. So when you go to Shopee, you just click several products, but you didn't buy. Definitely, when you click a specific product, you are interested about that product. That's why you're going to see right after you click that, automatically the cookie on that particular browser that you are using will automatically record all your clicks and all your hovers on the different products. That's why when you transfer to another platform wherein that particular product is that particular website is subscribing as well, you'll be automatically seeing that as an advertisement of that. Magtataka ka nga, di ba, pagka lumipat ka sa Facebook mo, yung lahat ng kinlik mo ay nando na. Or kaya pag nagbukas ka ng email mo, the first email that you're going to find will be about that product that you have clicked very previously. Or when you open your cell phone, you might find a push notification telling you, hey, we have a sale on this product on this date. So something like that. So high frequency stock trading. So sa stocks, sa stocks exchange, ng Pilipinas, ng Amerika at ng buong mundo, basically that is basically gathering and of course has high speed or high velocity data. Machine to machine process exchange between data, data between billions of uh, billions of devices. And also infrastructures and sensors that generate massive log data in real time, including yung mga tinatawag natin mga Internet of Things na mga devices, ano. So those are basically sensors ng smoke, sensor ng rain, sensor ng traffic, sensor ng lahat ng mga bagay, ano. Another thing is that yung mga data coming from different closed circuit televisions. Online gaming systems support millions of concurrent users, each producing multiple inputs per second. So, yung mga NFT na mga games, ano, just try to imagine that as of today. So, it is actually gathering voluminous or high velocity or high speed data. Because in every second, in every minute, there is hundreds or even millions of users connected to it. Now, when we talk about data variety, as I've mentioned, there will be so many unstructured data compared to the structured data gathered by any organization. When we talk about big data, we're talking about the variety of data that are collected, which includes text documents, video, audio, online, RFID, meter sensors, financial pictures, and the seasonability and the event driven kind of data. Na so pag alam na when we talk about event driven, there's a specific event and that will actually lead to millions of tweets, million of retweets, million of instant messages about that particular event. Ano? So that leads to big data. So much of the data collected by the organization is represented by 80% unstructured and 20% structured because the data that we say is structured are those data gathered from the different transactions and processes that are being performed day to day within the organization. The unstructured data are external data gathered outside the organization, which are imperative and important with the operations of the organization because these actually provide insights, how the company operates, comments about the company's performance given by people outside the organization. Because while we're looking at the organization performs better from the inside, there are also important information given by external sources which are purely unstructured that tells who you are as a company. And that matters very importantly. So everything coming from the outside should really be analyzed by the organization. So, veracity of data, this is an issue of accuracy of data. Di pala, correctness of data. Nasabi dyan, ano? 1 in 3 leaders don't trust the information they use to make decisions. 27% of respondents in one survey were unsure how much of data was inaccurate. So sometimes we can equate the veracity or correctness of data with the percentage of uncertainty of data within the organization. So it is 3.1 trillion a year ang nagiging cost sa US economy because of poor data quality that are exist within the bounds of different multinational enterprises or international organization in the US. So let's talk about the data science business advantage. Okay, so let's proceed on the next slide. Sorry, it's not on the next slide, but sorry. So we have here the data science advantage. So we have the different competitive advantage provided by data science and part of it is actually data analytics. So data science allows us to create standard reporting in light speed. So it means to say it's very fast. You could basically create that. And the report that you have created can be queried. So you could basically apply filters so that you could view data on different angles. And you could also, more importantly, out of that standard report that you create, you will be able to create data visualization. That particular visualization will provide intuitive information within a glance to its user and will be able to query that in order to provide
different patterns and trends by changing or playing the different data into it based on the filters that you have applied. And in totality, you could actually do descriptive statistics. So descriptive in the sense that it will be able to describe our data based on the historical data of the organization, yung previous or completed data of the organization of previous processes. And that basically defines what is descriptive analytics. And that will be the coverage of our topic today, because doing predictive analytics would be very long. So it would entail another set of hours for us to be able to discuss. So with predictive analytics, you aside from that, also included in descriptive analytics is actually data mining. But when you go one notch higher, predictive analytics, this is where we could actually do forecasting and predictive modeling. That will allow you to use historical data of the organization applied with the statistical tool, something like correlation and regression analysis. We could actually train our data in order to create a data that can be used in order to predict future operations of the organization that can guide manager on the decisions on how to deal with future engagements. Now, aside from that, there is one step higher. We have prescriptive analytics that will allow you to simulate, okay, and to make decision analysis, compare decision A, alternative B, decision B, based on different data that you're going to use from the previous and present operation of the organization. And that will involve the creation of an output of optimization so that managers have the full options of which one to choose. But of course, they would not be totally reliant on that, but they could use that as a tool, yung prescriptive analytics, in order to make better and informed decision based on facts and transform facts to information of the organization using predictive analytics processes, prescriptive analytics processes. So these are the competitive advantage of data science. So let's proceed on the next slide. So we have here data science analytics. So actually, if you're going to see, we have four: descriptive analytics, diagnostics, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. So the first two, if we're going to look here, right at the bottom, so we have descriptive and prescriptive. They are basically rule-based, so they are actually rule-based, but diagnostic and predictive analytics are probability-based. That's why I say that predictive analytics is something that is statistical, based on statistics, based on statistics tool. And one thing more, on the other hand, diagnostic and prescriptive analytics are based on past data of the organization. But the predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics are basically creating some data products that will allow you to make future decisions that can affect your future decisions. Okay? So some definitions here. So we're going to have definitions of data. So when we talk about data, we're just simply referring to facts, figures, collected, analyzed, and summarized for presentation and interpretation. Meaning to say, these are the historical data of the organization, or these are data that are completed based on the previously completed process of the organization. So they are organized so that they could be used for some data analytics task or some other purposes. So when we talk about variable, we are actually talking about the different columns of data that you put all together. That makes sense. For example, you are representing yung sales data of the organization. So all of that columns are talking about or representing about or related to the sales of the organization. When we talk about observation, we're just talking about a single record or a single observation of data, set of values about sales. So sales record 1, sales record 2, sales record 3, something like that. And then let's proceed on to the next slide. We have here the different types of data. that we're going to handle in doing analytics. So, kaya yan ay prescriptive, diagnostic, descriptive analytics. All of these will deal with different types of data. Also, in doing statistics, it's very important to know the difference between categorical and numeric data. So when we talk about categorical data, so we're actually defining here data with defined categories. So meaning to say it could be non-numeric, but could be represented in a database as numbers. So something like category sex with a value of male and female. But also when you implement this on a database, for example, it can be treated as 0 as male and 1 as female, so things like that. So it could also be a Boolean value, something like male, ginamit mong field ay male, you could put yes, so when you say yes, it's a male, but when you say no, it's a female, so things like that. That's why we have example here, something like marital status that could be represented by single and married and widow or legally separated, political party, eye color, as in brown, black, blue, green, so things like that. We also have numeric. So when we talk about numeric data, we're talking about either discrete or continuous data. So when we talk about discrete data, we're talking about counted items or whole numbers. So examples are number of children, number of handsets. So when we talk about that, so counted values with minute discrete, okay? But when we talk about numeric data continuous, this refers to measured characteristics. Ano? Measured, ibig sabihin nasusukat as in weight, height, age, bank balances, car speed, etc., etc. So I hope we are able to identify that because we're going to use that later in Excel data analytics. So let's go to data quality predictors. So here are the data quality predictors. I think in 5 minutes time, we're going to finish already part 1 and we're going to proceed with part 2, which is our actual data analytics activity. So data analytics predictors are the data attributes relevant? Are the data attributes connected? Are the data attributes accurate? Is there enough data? So kung pagkatinignan natin, ano, yung mga quality of data predictors are very important predictors that we need to determine yet before we proceed with any data analytics activity. Because if your data are not relevant, if your data are not connected or complete, if your data are not accurate, or if your data is not enough, kung lahat ng sagot dyan ay no, 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 hindi natin dapat gawin yung data analytics, ano? Because we will not be able to get much about the analytics that we're going to perform. So, just to illustrate all of these, are the data attributes relevant? So, looking on the left side, irrelevant data and relevant, and the other one on the right side is the representation of relevant data. So, if we're going to look at the 3 columns here, of the 3 columns or the 3 variables or fields, we have price of milk, red socks batting average, and blood alcohol content. So, pagka tinignan natin, yung price of milk has nothing to do with the batting average or blood alcohol content. Yung blood alcohol content and red socks batting average might be related to one another, but the price of milk is something that is not relevant in this particular set of data. Hence, arriving at irrelevant data. So this would not be good for making some data analysis. But with relevant data here on the second set of data that we have, body mass, margaritas, and blood alcohol content, we will be able to determine maybe the toxicity level of a person based on this particular data applying certain computation. And that makes the data relevant and good for analysis. Another ones that are the data attributes connected. If we're going to look on the first example of disconnected data is related to the incompleteness of our data, which make it impossible for us to use it for analysis. How are you going to analyze data if they are actually incomplete? So with connected data and with complete data, we'll be able to do analysis very easily and very quickly and very accurately. So that's why data that are incomplete are most of the time not included but discarded because they will create unwanted results in the prediction and in the result of the data analysis process using different application, whether it's in Excel, whether it's in Tableau, whether it is in RapidMiner. All of those will not be creating positive result if your data are disconnected. Now, talking about accuracy and precision. When we talk about are the data attributes accurate? So, napaka-importante ng accuracy ng data na ginagather natin. Ano? Because accuracy refers to the closeness of measured value to the standard or known value. No? So, when we talk about precision, we refer to precision as it refers to the closeness of two or more measurement to each other. The first one, accuracy, talks about closeness of the data that you gathered from a standard known value. But when we talk about precision is the closeness of the data being gathered. No closeness of the data being gathered, not its closeness to the standard or known value. Sabi nga dyan, precision is independent of accuracy or vice versa. Data can be precise but inaccurate. It can also be accurate but imprecise. On that sense, let us analyze it with some chart samples here. So, are the data attributes accurate? If you're going to look, yung number 4 is the one with greatest accuracy and greatest precision, if we're going to see. Because if the standard value is somewhere right in the center, and they are also precise at the same time because all of the data gathered are close to each other. So, ito namang isa dito is with high accuracy but with low precision. So, but ito yung low precision and low accuracy. Ito yung pinaka may lowest precision and lowest accuracy because the accuracy should be right in the center but it goes far off the center. So, we could say that it is the kind of data that we could not actually use. So another thing, there should be enough data. Is there enough data? Just try to imagine in this basic analogy, if we're going to look at this picture, you might guess kung sino na sa picture, si Jose Rizal ba, si Mona Lisa ba, we do not know. Because there is not enough pixel on the picture. That is basic representation of adequacy of data. Now, if there is not enough data, you will not be able to create a very good data analytics process, thereby you're not going to come up with data products or data output that can be used to make informed decision. Okay, so that ends this particular part of our presentation for part 1. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing first. Ma'am Camille, are we going to continue? Ma'am Ranalyn pala, are we going to continue po or stop muna tayo? Tuloy ko na po.
Sige, yes sir, please. Continue na lang po tayo.
Apo, continue na po natin. So, proceed na po tayo dun sa mismong topic po natin.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Okay, share ko lang po yung screen ko. Sorry for that. Yan. Right after this presentation po, we have konti lang po yung slide. So, we're just going to present here Excel data analytics, analyzing data using pivot tables and pivot charts. Okay, so let's proceed. So the topic outline would be all about having pivot table overview and pivot charts overview. Actually, the main purpose of pivot table and pivot charts is actually to create data analytics products in Excel. From before, if you are using Microsoft Excel, you are actually creating reports, and on the reports, you have so many rows, and at the end of the rows, you put your summary, as in the sum of the total of this like this, and then you create the average of this, the minimum count, the maximum count, Basically, you provide statistics at the end that describes the nature of data that you have. But doing such is kind of very taxing and at the same time very laborious. But there is a way in order for us to get away with that and be able to create data products that are very simple to do and yet very powerful. So pivot table overview includes, first, of course, we need to do grouping of data, and then we need to summarize value and to show value as. When we talk about summarization, we're talking about, are we going to compute for the sum? Are we going to compute for the average? Are we going to determine the minimum or the maximum value and others? Showing values could be showing values in terms of totals or showing values in terms of percentages and the likes. And then we also have calculated fields. And more importantly, we have filters. By adding filters, we'll be able to show this and display data, uh, show and display data on different angles. So you could basically include or remove certain part of the data so that you could do the analysis much better by focusing on certain data within our pivot table. And the output of the pivot table can be converted into something more powerful that in a glance will be have an intuitive definition, intuitive analysis, in-depth analysis of data by looking at the pivot chart. So at the pivot chart, we are going to do the formatting of the chart. More importantly, we're going to create the chart out of the pivot table. And then we're going to do of course, formatting of the different chart elements in order to remove the chart elements that we do not need and put the chart elements that will further improve the appearance and as well as the content of our pivot chart. And then our last topic, our third presentation will be all about creating dashboards wherein we are going to create interaction, human-computer interaction, and that will make the pivot chart and pivot table more dynamic. So to begin with, please allow me. So we have here the first question. What do you do when you have lots of data in Microsoft Excel? So, ano nga ba gagawin natin? So, mahirap mag-analyze. If you have 10, 20, 30 rows of data, it would be okay. But how about if you have 9,000 or if you have 50,000 or if you have 200,000 lines of data, no? So, that's a lot of data already and you could not make sense out of it by just looking at it, most especially if you have 26 columns and not all that columns can be seen all at the same time. And your focus is only looking on sales or kaya you look into profits or kaya you look into cost. You could not do that very easily and comprehend very easily if we're going to look with lots of data. And the question is that where do you start analyzing? And that should be answered by the presentation that we have. So something like if we have this 49,659 observations with more than uh, more than 26 columns. So how are we going to make sense out of this data? That's why data analytics in Excel would be very vital and important. So one way to make sense out of for our data is to do it using pivot tables. Okay, so we're going to do pivot tables because pivot table can summarize and analyze large amount of data into a well organized, well summarized report, giving you and allowing you to focus only on the data that matters the most in a specific presentation or report. So, questions that pivot table can answer is, for example, who sold the most and where? You would like to know only sino may pinakamadaming nabenta at aling lugar yung may pinakamadaming nabenta? Can we do that? Of course, we can do that with just few clicks of a button. Because that is how simple pivot table can be used. So which quarter were most profitable? So we would like to know which quarter is most profitable. Yung data natin, even if it is on a daily basis, for example, sales yan ng 500,000 sets of records mula January 1, 2015 hanggang hanggang December 2021, it's not a problem. You could see your data in quarters. Sir, you're mentioning that the sales are on a daily basis. How could that be possible that I can look into it on a quarterly basis? Because pivot table has a tool that will allow you to display data on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis. So that's how flexible pivot table is. And which product solves best? You would like to know which product solves the most? Then you could simply drag some or few fields of our data. Then we can create all this and we can answer all this. Okay, so that is what are we going to answer. So that can be done. So showing this, okay? Ay, baka hindi na pala masyado makita. So parts of the pivot table. So simply lang, you are going to drag your pivot table, and when you drag your pivot table, you're going to include all the columns that you're going to use. So these columns will involve fields, rows, columns, and filters. So those are the things that you're going to include into your pivot table. And the pivot table, when the original data is updated, you are also required to refresh your pivot table because it has a cache. So you need to refresh that so all new data will be included automatically. And out of the pivot table that you create, you will be able to create either a drill down or you could create pivot charts. Actually, drill down is very important because when you click one of the items for drill down, it will automatically show you all the data that are associated with that column that you have selected or specified in the pivot table. And the pivot table, of course, is final output of the pivot table in general is a report, a summarized report that includes subtotals, that includes grand totals, percentages, that will allow you to format number, and more importantly, that will allow you to include filters or what we call slicers and timelines. Kasi sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, we can actually change the way how we view data, whether quarterly, daily, weekly, and so on. And of course, the report can be further arranged or improved by applying report layout, which could be on tabular, outline, or compact mode. So, mahirap siyang tingnan. If we're going to look at this, parang it's so complicated, but actually it's very simple when we proceed with the actual demo. So let's proceed here. So data suitable for pivot table analysis. So of course, we're going to consider columns and rows, okay, of our data set. So that's how we call the kilometric rows and columns that we have shown previously, just like what is displayed right here, are basically, we call it data set. Ano? The columns are considered the fields, and the column headings are the field name. So it's very important for us to have a column name so that we could identify the data that we are actually be using in our pivot table as well as in the pivot chart. And each of the observations are the so-called rows or records of our data set. Important, data should have no blank columns or rows. That's why we have presented connectedness of data kanina. If there is a disconnected data that has some blank on it, it has to be removed or you need to fix that. Kaya that's why kanina sa definition ng data science, data should be cleansed. Okay? So kailangan natin siyang i-cleanse because we could not allow a blank value because a single blank value into our data set, into our sample data may cause possible unwanted result in our pivot table. Because as we all know, we are actually creating averaging. One characteristic of Excel is that when it does average, when it encounters a blank cell, it will disregard that cell and will continue to compute for the average of what remains to be part of the data, which is not correct, di ba? So dapat kung 200 yon, it should be divided by 200. But since it is only 199, dahil may isang blanco, it will divide it to 199 and that will create inaccurate results already. So it is important to note that data should have no blank columns or rows as much as possible. So pivot table actually simulates the OLAP data cube structure. So when we talk about OLAP, we talk about online analytical processing na tinatawag natin, ano, which is actually an online platform for data analysis. So when we talk about OLAP cube, we could look at it that data can be viewed in a three-dimensional mode. Ibig sabihin, you could look at it on interplay of three sets of data, as in you could show the regional data on the row, and then you could set on the column the different day, and on the dimension you can show actually the different products, ano. OLAP stands for online analytical processing, and cube is another word for multidimensional set of data. So the OLAP cube is a staging space for analysis of information in three-dimensional mode, thereby allowing you to view data on different angles. When you turn the cube into upside down, you will see the difference that the dimensions becomes the columns, the rows becomes the field, etc., etc. So just to have a basic idea on that, we're going to have here, if we are going to separate the all up cubes, you're going to see the separation of the different data that can be represented. So something like you could represent the part, the store location, and the customer involved. And for example, for the first part of the all up cube, you could show the store location in Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal. And at the same time, you could show the different parts that are sold by sold to customer Bunch. The second part of the Olaf Cube is the one that is sold to customer Bob, to Richard, to Allinson, and so on. Basically, okay, so basically, uh, using pivot table will enable students to more easily understand how a cube mechanism is used to query and analyze data in organized dimensional structure. If you have a background in programming, most especially in array or multidimensional array, that is actually the way how the OLAP cube work. Now, let us go with how to create the pivot table actually. So we create the pivot table by going into the insert ribbon, okay? While your data set is open, you could actually go to the insert ribbon, and the first item on the left-hand side of the insert ribbon is the pivot table. You just click on the pivot table. One thing more that I would like to note is that you must first put your cursor on cell A1 if the cell A1 is the starting point of your data set. Okay, so put your cursor on cell A1, and then you click on insert, and then you click on pivot table. As you click on pivot table, the entirety of your data will be selected together with the column headings. Right after that, the pivot table dialog box will appear, and it will ask you to select the table or the range. You need not to do that anymore, because when you put your cursor on cell A1 where your data starts, automatically it will display the correct name of the cells that you're going to use for your pivot table. Then at the bottom, you're going to specify where you're going to put your pivot table. You could mix it with your with your data set, or you could put it on a new worksheet. Best practices dictates that we put it on a new worksheet. So right after you put in a new worksheet, you click the OK button. This is what will happen. The pivot table will appear on our sheet. Okay, so this is how the pivot table looks like. It might look a little bit different if you are using different version of Microsoft Excel. And from there, you will see that automatically pivot table tools, analyze and design will appear on our screen. Okay? Will appear on the toolbar. They are contextual toolbar. And one thing more, I would like you to notice that pivot table fields will appear on the left pane, a right pane rather, of Microsoft Excel, as a right pane of the Microsoft Excel window. So that would be the first one. So this is the pivot placeholder marked by the green dito we have indicated. And then more importantly, in the pivot table list, you're going to see the set of the header rows. That's why the column headings here are very important, because these are the things that will be shown as the name of the columns that we can include into our pivot table. So continuing further, if we're going to look here at the bottom, this is where we put the columns, the rows, and the values, and the filters that we are going to apply into our data. Okay, so this is an example of an already defined pivot table. So how do we come up with this particular pivot table? So that is basically achieved by dragging the pivot table fields into either to the fields, to the to the columns, to the rows, and to the values placeholder at the bottom of the pivot table fields pane. Okay, so you could basically turn on or off the field list by clicking the field list button here. Okay, so sometimes you would like to work on a bigger screen, you would like to turn it on, but off, but you could turn it on the same thing. So you need to click the field list button. By going up, hindi pala nakikita yata dito ba nakikita? Ay, hindi, ito kasi nakatago sa show. So nakatago. So pakita ko na lang, ito 'yon. Kapag full size yung screen, you'll be able to see that. So you could basically turn that on. So once you drag a field into either the row, the values, or the columns, automatically it will appear or reflected in the pivot table placeholder. Okay? Now, focusing on the ribbon of the pivot table, so we have two, as we have mentioned, we have analyze and we have design. So the more important here actually is the analyze ribbon. So the analyze ribbon will allow you to do the most important thing. So these two guys here, insert slicer and insert timeline, are basically the one that will create the so-called human-computer interaction, or the interaction, the user interaction to your data product. Because when you insert slicer, you'll be able to insert filter that will change the data that are being displayed. In timeline is also a form of slicer, but it is a date-based. So that's the one. And then the guy here that is inactive is that will be activated once you inserted any of these, is the so-called filter connections. Okay? So the filter connection will allow you to connect all your filter, which are timeline and slicer, with your pivot table as well as your pivot chart. And also we have here under analyze is the button where you can use to insert a pivot table, though it is also available here on the insert ribbon. But I think it would be best to access that via the pivot, via the analyze ribbon of pivot table, to do inserting of pivot chart. So the button here, the refresh button, is the one that you need to use when you have added new data, or you have edited some data in the pivot table, in the actual data, in the worksheet. When you change halimbawa 1, 2, or 3 pieces of data in the worksheet, it would be best to click the refresh button so that all those changes you've made to your sheet will be reflected into the pivot table as well as the pivot chart. It's not automatic. Again, I'm going to mention it's not automatic. So therefore, you are required to You are required to do the refresh. Okay? And now, we have here the last button to show the field list, or to display or to hide the field list. Now, the design ribbon is all about modifying the pivot table report. So, you'll be able to change the color of the report if you want to, if you are actually following a certain color rule on the company, and the company requires you to use the blue color or the gray color, then you can use the pivot table styles here. And we can also change the report layout to compact, to wide, etc. No, we can also hide subtotals and grand totals, and of course we could modify the the design here by changing the pivot style option here, just like removing the header row, removing the column headers, or adding band to the row and to the columns and so on. So these are the ribbons. Now, to be very exact with the different parts of the pivot table, as we have mentioned, the field list here, once the pivot table is inserted, can be just simply dragged into the different placeholder at the bottom, including columns, values, and rows. So just try to make sense out of that. When you drag products, for example, products to rows, it will create the as the marker for the row. It means to say that you're going to put the data row based on product. Okay? So when you drag months to columns, automatically what will happen is that all the available months, okay, all the available months in our uh, data set o tama, in our data set will be added. So if the pivot table see that you have January, February, March, April, then automatically you have that particular columns. Now when you drag the value of sold, quantity sold to the values, automatically it will populate the intersection of the month and the product for all those particular vacant cells. That's why you're going to have here the all-up cube structure. You will see that you have an interplay between product, month, and quantity sold. Okay? So, important notes on pivot table. When you create a pivot table, a copy of the data is stored in the pivot cache. Okay? Any changes to the data won't show up in the report until you refresh the cache. That's why I am mentioning that you need to click the refresh button so that we'll be able to refresh the cache of the pivot table. Okay? So meron siyang button, nakita natin ano dun sa pivot table uh, toolbar, okay, sa ribbon. So the data needs to be cleansed, it needs to be clean. Any blank rows, blank columns, or text in a number field will give unpredictable results. Sabi nga di dyan, for large data set, use conditional formatting on number fields to search for invalid data. So we're talking about here data preparation actually, ano? So we need to prepare our data because if you don't, automatically you will be gaining inaccurate and unpredictable results. The data must have column headings. That's the most important thing. That's why we mentioned it at the very beginning. You know, that should be the first row and must have no repeating columns or data. Hindi pa pwedeng yung heading mo ay nasa first row at saka sa second row. Hindi pa pwedeng halimbawa monthly sales. Yung monthly nasa first row, yung sales nasa second row. Hindi pa pwedeng ganon. It should only be one column. That's why we call it the column heading. So it should only be contained in a single column, just like what we have shown a while ago. So there are tools here for summarizing values. Ano? So we have mentioned when we talk about summarize, makikita nyo dito, no, we mean that we're going to sum to compute the total. You need to count, physically counting 1, 2, 3, something like that, based on numbers or based on letters. Then we can also do average, we can also do minimum, we can do maximum. So those are the basic aggregation functions that we most use in Microsoft Excel and we most use as well when we do pivot table. Okay? Ang default ni Microsoft Excel with pivot table is yung sum. So when you need to change it to average, then that's the time that you need to do summarize values by. So that can be accessed by right-clicking on the pivot table and then you access summarize values by, okay? So be careful when summarizing numeric-looking IDs or phone numbers. Of course, we could not summarize that. Kunwari, employee ID, ang number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 8, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So something like that. Then you summarize, then you forgot to look at it, into it, and then it creates the sum. which is not correct because when you summarize that employee ID, your intention is only to count the number of employees. And for that, you should change that to count instead of sum. Okay? So we need to we need to remember that pro tip of us. Then, okay, so let's have show values as. So in showing values as, ito naman po yung pag-change the way how we display numbers. So by default, showing the number is basically showing it as a general number, whether meron yan decimal, walang decimal, kung ano itsura niya. But when you decided to change it, halimbawa integer yan, whole number, but you would like to show it as a currency, you would like to put comma on it, you would like to put 0.00, then you should be able to change that, yung show values as. Or you could basically change it by converting it into percentages. You could also change that to percentage. Mapapansin nyo, yung value field settings are actually joined na dialogue. It could either be summarize values as or show values as. Okay? So showing the different kinds of show values as here, you're going to see the different presentations. So we can use percent of grand total or percent of column total. So depende kung paano nyo gustong i-percent. Kasi kung naka-multi-column po kayo, pwede natin sabihin percent of column total. Pero kung ikaw ay naka-single column, you could say percent of grand total. It always depends. So konti lang naman ako po, konti lang ginagamit ko dito. So let's now have our demo. Okay, so grouping of data, summarizing values by, and show values by, calculated fields, filters, and drill down. So we're going to do that. So before we proceed to pivot chart, we're going to do the pivot table first. So I'm going to stop my presentation, and we're going to proceed with the actual demonstration. So please allow me to share my screen. So we're going to use here. Ayan. So meron po tayong gagamitin na sample data. Actually, this data is the what do you call this? The global superstore. It is actually an online store that operates in many different countries. So makita niyo po dito. First, let us analyze our data. Unang-una, we have row 1, row A up to row X. Okay? So we have actually 24 columns here. So tingnan din natin yung data natin mula taas pa baba. We have column A to column X rather. We have row 1 down to row 51,478. Okay? So meron po tayong 50 plus thousands of observations or records here in this particular data set. So and this is all about customer orders in Global Superstore. So talking about order, it doesn't talk about it talks about things about orders. So this includes pati po yung shipping mode. So meron diyan kailan ba niya pinaship? Same day ba? First class ba? Second class ba? So you're going to see here, when I click here the filter button, you're going to see here po, meron tayong first class, same day, second class, and standard class. So yun nga po palang filter is na-activate by simply selecting here the row heading here, and then we go to sort and filter, and then you put a check on filter. Ayan. So
Sir,
isa-select ko
excuse
lang.
me po.
Apo.
Sir, the participants are requesting that can you share that data po so that they can do the hands-on as well
Yes,
po.
ma'am. Magbibigay din po ako sa kanila ng sample hands-on dataset saka problem po. Magbibigay po tayo pagkayari po ng seminar natin.
Okay
I-share po
po.
natin sa kanila. I-share ko
Thank
na po ba ngayon, ma'am, or later po?
Gusto po yata nila kayo sabayan, sir.
Okay. So, i-share saan ko po, i-share ko na lang po sa ating chat box po. Sige po.
Thank you so
Sige po,
much
share
po,
po.
sir.
Sige po, ma'am. Let's do it po. I-share ko lang po siya. Kung ma-share ko nga po siya. Nasa Google Drive ba siya? Sige po, i-share ko muna po siya sa Google Drive. Mag-stop lang muna ako, ma'am, sandali. Ano po? Stop sharing ko lang po. Para po mabilis ko magawa.
Sige po. Habang hinihintay po natin si Sir, gusto ko lang pong malaman if yung mga participants ay actively na nakikinig pa rin kay Sir and nandito pa rin with us. So, can you please press 21. Please type in the chat box 21 kung nandito pa kayo. 21. Alright, nandito pa din lahat. So, ayan. Very attentive
Thank you.
ng
Thank
lahat.
you
So,
with that.
ayan.
So, i-share ko po, ano po, wait lang po, ano, ginagawa ko na po ngayon. So, bigay ko po siya. Yan. So, let's wait sumot. Ilang segundo lang po to. Mabilis lang.
Ayan, sabi ni Sir Michael Jolo, yes, very interesting topic po. Yes. Thank you po. 2-1.
Kinakabahan nga po ako kasi po ako po yung unang magpe-present. Na ano po ako nila, nabudol-budol po ako nung pinamili kami ng schedule.
Parang
Kaya
wala
sabi
naman
po
ka
sa
pa,
akin ni Ma'am
Sir.
Opel, sabi ni Ma'am Opel sa akin ni Ma'am Jo, thank you daw eh. Kasi po ako yung ano, sabi ko wala. Kasi inunahan nila ako, yun na lang po yung natira. Kaya doon po ako napunta.
Ay naman
Pero
po,
okay lang
Sir.
naman
Parang,
po.
wala naman pong kakaba-kaba yung nagpe-present kayo. Ayan.
Hindi po
Ayan, ang daming
nakakakabot po, syempre.
dami pong
Ay,
nag-press ng
share ko na.
2-1.
Ito na po. Matatapos na po ma-share.
Thank you po.
Sige po. 1 minute. Less than a minute po. Medyo mukhang nagloloko po ng konti internet ko eh. Change ko lang po yung sharing mode. Ayan. Copy link. Ayan. So, lagay ko na po sa chat box now. Ayan po yung link. Pwede nyo na pong ma-access po, mga sirs, mga ma'am.
And thank you po, Sir.
Sige po, thank you po. So, kanina po yung tanong natin, ano? Alin ba yung pinakamabiling items? Alin ba yung region na may pinakamataas na sales? So, by looking at this data, first we analyze our data, no? Yung po muna ginagawa natin. So, dapat nga po, we're going to look into the data. Mapapansin po natin dito, ano, may column po dito na may vacant, katulad ng postal code. So, hindi naman po lahat ng bansa ay magkakamukha ng paraan kung paano mag-declare ng postal code. At saka kung yung column po na yun ay hindi naman natin gagamitin sa calculation, okay lang po na may blank. Masama po, may blank gagamitin mo sa calculation. Never, never, ever use a column with disconnected or incomplete data. Tandaan po natin, ano? So, dito po yung postal code, hindi natin gagamitin, kaya okay lang po na blanko siya. So, meron din po ditong categories. Tingnan nyo, it's very interesting. There are two important columns here. Product category and product subcategory. So, babalikan po natin yung kanina. Ang una po natin gagawin is that lalagyan po natin ng filter yung data natin. Ba't ko po ba lalagyan ng filter? So, isa-select lang po natin lahat ng ating column heading. Then, I'm going to select here filter. Tapos po, filter ulit. Nasa home lang po tayo, no? Home ribbon, filter, tapos po filter. We're doing that po para madali natin makita kung ano-anong data ba meron sa bawat column. For example, subcategory, you're going to see here that merong less than 20 items of subcategories of products na binebenta si Global Superstore. Pagdating naman sa category, you're going to see na meron palang 3 categories of data lang na ibinebenta si Global Superstore. Other than that, meron ditong sales. So, sabi natin, itong sales ay continuous data, di ba? So, continuous. So, meron din tayong profit. So, magkaiba po yung sales saka yung profit. Mapapansin nyo po dito, no, isang data pa lang, nakabenta pero nalugi pa si Global Superstore ng negative $288. So, something like that. Then, meron din silang order priority. Meron ding shipping cost. And more importantly, you're going to see that it operates on different country. Unahin po natin, ganito natin tingnan yung gagawin natin. Ano ba yung gusto natin na gawin sa ating data? That's the most important thing. We're going to do analysis. Ano ba yung information that you would like to extract? For example, gusto mong malaman kung alin bang product ang may pinakamaraming benta in terms of its category. So you would like to know that simple. Which product category solves the most? Which category solves the most? So for us to do that, gagawin na po natin pivot table natin. Kung na-download nyo na po, pwede po natin siyang gawin. Ang gagawin ko lang po is that, as we have mentioned, you have positioned your cursor sa cell A1. Okay? Ipo-position po natin yung cursor natin on cell A1. Ay, okay po. Sige po, babagalan po natin kung mabilis. So, ready na po ba yung data natin? Kung nakabukas na kayo? Paano po ba natin malalaman kung you have already opened it? So, tingnan po natin sa chat. Ayun, nakabukas na daw, sabi ni Ma'am Andrea Daluyan. So, hopefully, lahat po nakabukas na. Yes, that's good. So, sabay-sabay po natin gawin. Position your cursor on cell A1 po. Aalamin po natin alin bang product category ang may pinakamadaming na benta, pinakamataas ang benta. Okay? So, that's the thing that we're going to do first. Position your cursor on cell A1. Babagalan po natin. Then, let us click on Insert. Click po natin yung Insert ribbon. And then, we are going to click on Pivot Table. Ayan. Pag ginawa nyo po yun, hindi na po natin i-worry yung pagse-select ng data kasi sabi select a table or range. Sinelect na po para sa atin ni Microsoft Excel yung range natin mula A to X hanggang row 1 hanggang doon sa row 51,000 something sa bottom. You need not to check that because Excel is precise on that. Then, at the bottom, we will be asked, saan ba natin lalagay? Sabihin po natin, new worksheet. Huwag po natin ihalo sa data kasi ang dami na ng data natin dito sa order sheet eh. So, sa new sheet po natin ilalagay. Pagka po kaya rin yung select yung new sheet, we are going to click the OK button. Ayan. Pag pinindot po natin, once we press the OK button, you are going to see here on our screen our pivot table holder. So don't worry po kung nakalagay sa akin 5, baka sa inyo din po nakalagay 5 kasi may mga kinrate po ako dyan na naka-hide lang, hindi ko lang po ipinakita pa. So what we want to do, we want to know which product solves the most. Okay? Which product solves the most? So product at saka sales po ang titingnan natin, ano? So first and foremost, we're going to go here on the pivot table fields. Kung nawawala po sa screen yung pivot table fields, pero I think hindi naman, nandyan po yung field list sa ating screen. Naka-display po, okay? So when I click field list here, it will be hidden. When I click field list again, it will be displayed, okay? So, ang gagawin po natin, we're going to drag first yung product. Hanapin lang po natin si product from our list. Ayan. Yung pong product natin, ano po ba gusto nyo? Category o subcategory? Unahin muna po natin yung tatlo lang. So, let's select category. Sometimes, kapag ka po chinek nyo, lalabas na yan agad dun sa row. Okay? Kapag ito ay categorical data. Categorical po kasi siya. Laman niya, furniture, office supplies, technology. So, when you check it, lalabas dyan. When you uncheck it, mawawala. Okay? So, ganun po siya nag-work. Ayan. So, nakakatuwa po. We are ready. So, pwede nyo din pong ganito gawin. You could basically drag category to So, pwede po natin siyang i-drag sa rows. So, the same thing lang. So, i-check na lang natin, mas madali. But if it's not meant to be there, pwede nyo naman po siyang ilipat. Halimbawa, I would like to put this on a column. Wala pong problema. I can drag it to column. Pero ngayon po, ibabalik ko po siya sa ating rows. Ayan, pwede nyo po i-shoot. Kung buburahin nyo po yan, so simply select and tapos remove field po. Pwede nyo pong ma-remove. Okay? Which product sells the most? So, eto na po yun, sales. Either po gusto nyo bilangin kung ilan yung nabenta, pero ang gusto natin malaman kung ilan yung sales eh. So, we're going to check on sales here. Pag chinekan nyo din po yung sales, dyan nyo na po makikita yung error because yun ba gusto mo makita yung sales under the categories? Hindi. So, if you would like to see that, maybe you're going to drag sales dito po sa values. Ayan, pagka dinrag po natin yung sales sa values, you're going to see already yung pong sales natin. Okay? I would like you to observe palagi kapag ka po nag-drag tayo ng value, what you're going to see here, sabi natin kanina, kung ang intention mo, mabilang kung ilang items ang nabenta, you could basically have count of sales. But it's not accurate because ang laman ng sales, kapag po tinignan natin sa ating dataset, pupunta po ako sa dataset natin, ano? Ayan. Ang laman po ng sales kapag ka po, meron po ako na-type, baguhin ko na lang to, no? Lagyan ko na lang din ng data. Nabura ko lang po yun. Dito po sa sales, ang laman po niya talaga is yung actual sales value, no? So, therefore, this output created by pivot table is not accurate because it display count. Diyan na po papasok yung paggamit po natin ng summarize values by na tinatawag. Paano naman po natin i-access yun? Dalawang bagay po. Pwede nyo pong i-right click. Tapos makikita po natin dyan yung summarize values by. Okay? Makikita po natin, pwede po natin piliin yung sum. Pakita ko pa po yung isang method. Kung nakikita nyo po dito sa values, may button din siya. Nandyan naman po yung value field settings. When you select value field settings, makita nyo naman po yung kanina na pinakita natin na magkasama silang dalawa. No? By default, it is count. We will change it to sum. Pag change nyo po yan sa sum, you could basically change the number format. Ito lang po makikita nyo dito, there is number format. And then, you could switch to currency. Kung peso po yan, ano? Pero kung hindi po yan peso, halimbawa dollar kasi to, so pipiliin po natin yung US dollar po. Kung may US dollar po dito. Ayan. Dollar, United States. Then decimal places, we will include. And then we're going to click the OK button. Then, click again the OK button. Once we do that, you'll be able to see here yung pong sales ng yung sum of sales. By looking at this, makikita nyo it's already summarized. Pagka sinabi po natin ganyan, pagka tumingin kayo dito, makikita nyo po ba yung informasyon na yon agad-agad? Of course, it is not. Even if you sum this, ang tagal mong gagawin yon para makuha mo yung sum of sales. And you will not be able to get that as easy as what we have done. So, most especially kung ginagawa natin to without discussion, this can be easily done by all of us. Okay, so andyan po yung sample data. Pwede po natin. Maggagawa pa lang po tayo ng sample kaya po tayo makakasunod sa ating presentation. So, I'm going to select sum of sales here. Then, maybe we can sort it to largest to smallest. Ayan. So, bakit natin sinort? Para mas madali natin lalong makita kung alin ba may pinakamalaking sales. Kasi ang tanong natin which product category sells the most? Kanina, randomly, nakikita natin yung sales. Although madali mo pa rin makita, but that will solve best the problem by selecting first our pivot table, and then you go here sa sort and filter. Under home po ito, ano? And then you click it, sort largest to smallest, then you'll be able to see it. Kung gusto mo naman makita, may pinakababang sales sa pinakamataas, then sort mo po siya from smallest to largest. Okay? So that's the thing. There is one thing that I would like to mention as well. Kapag hindi po nakaselect ang pivot table, mawawala po ang ating field list. Okay? So always remember that. Okay? Always remember that. Okay, hintayin po natin yung iba, pero sa ibang example na natin sila isasali. Okay? So, there you go. And one thing more, there is one thing very important here. There is the grand total that allows us to see the result of the totality of the sale. So, hindi mo din makukuha yan agad lahat na yan kapag ka nag-deal ka dun sa 51,000 data sets that we have. But with pivot table, you could create instant report that allows us to see it very clearly. So as we have mentioned, pivot table do have this pivot table analyze and design. So po dito po sa design, you could basically change your report layout. So you can say show in tabular form, okay? So pagka kinlik nyo po show in tabular form, I would like you to see here na nagbago po. Na nagbago po yung value dito ng first column, ano? It displays kung ano yung pangalan ng category mismo. So i-undo ko po, ano? I'm going to press Control C. From the row labels here, when I change the report layout to show in tabular form, it will make the report much more informative than ever. Because it already shows, ano ba yung technology, furniture, at office supplies dito? It already shows the name of the column, which is category. So if you would like to use a different report style, maybe you could use pivot style like this, or like this, or we could use a different one. Kung gusto po natin. Nasa atin po yun, kung alin po yung gusto nating gamitin na style. So that is just the style of a report. Because other than that, this is a table, this is already a report that can be presented. Kaya kapag a-apprain ka ng boss mo, pahingi nga ng summary ng sales natin, there's no need to worry anymore. Kahit gaano kadami data nyo, just switch to pivot table and you'll be able to do that thing. Ngayon, tingnan naman natin po, let's make things complicated, something like we're going to do the all-up cube that we have presented. We would like to see the summary of sales of product in different regions. Okay? We would like to see the sales of product categories in different regions. O kaya, sales of product categories na subcategories in different regions. Pwede din natin gawin yon. So, paano na ulit? Babalik lang po tayo sa ating original dataset. So, we're going to click orders here. So, hopefully, naka-start na po yung iba. Madali lang po mag-download sa file copy as Microsoft Excel lang po yun. File copy as Microsoft Excel. Sige po, i-share ko na lang po dito yung file. Kasi po wala po kasi ditong share ng mismong file lang. Saan ko po kaya pwedeng i-share? Kung gusto nyo po. Kasi po ang share lang po dito, pwede lang pong Google Drive, ganun lang po kasi yung share, wala pong iba. Kaya hindi ko po sa inyo ma-share yung data. Okay, may tanong po, sir, ask ko lang po. Example po, may nabura or wala pong data. Ito po nga yung gagawin. Always remember, before we proceed with data, with the pivot table and pivot chart data analytics, ang una pong step actually is i-organize at i-cleanse yung data. wag po tayong magdidiretso sa analytics agad. Kasi nga po, ang unang dapat gawin ay i-fix po natin yung data natin. Kaya po sa data warehousing principles din, all data are finalized, meaning to say, nabura na, yung na-discard na yung data na hindi dapat isali, natanggal na yung incomplete data, natanggal na yung disconnected data. Ganun po yung procedure. Ayun, tama po. Pag open po sa Google Sheet file, then download as Excel file po. Yun po yung ano. So, I hope I was able to answer your question. So, puproceed na po tayo ulit. Babalikan ko po yung data natin here. So, always remember, you need to start at the very first cell of your pivot table, of your data set. So, select ko yung dataset natin, and then I'm going to click again Insert, and then I'm going to click on Pivot Table. So, isa-select niya po ulit yung ating data. So, nakaselect na yan, and then I'm going to specify na hindi na po new worksheet. Isasama ko na lang po sa kanina. I'm going to specify here existing worksheet. So, pagkaklik po natin existing worksheet, click ko lang po itong collapse button here, expand button, collapse button there, and then, lilipat po ako ng sheet 2, specify ko lang po kung saan sa sheet 2. Ayan, so, lagyan ko lang po ng space, huwag po natin ididikit, lagyan nyo po ng space, then click ko lang po ulit yung button, and then I'm going to click the OK button. And with that, we will be able to have our second pivot table placeholder. Ang sabi po natin, gusto nating malaman yung quantity, hindi yung quantity, yung amount of sales ng product category in different regions. Okay? So, what are we going to do here? We are going to select first region. Okay? I'm going to check on region. So, those are the different regions where Global Superstore operates. Now, gusto ko pong malaman yung mga sales nila sa bawat category, product category. So, saselect ko po yung product category dito. Ayan. That what will happen. It will also be included in the row. So, it depends on your intention of presenting that. So, pwede pong ganyan or pwede natin gawin yung category as columns. So when we do that, we'll be able to have columnar value for furniture, office supplies, and technology. And now, we are ready to put the value so that we'll be able to see yung sales nila. So I'm going to select sales here, and then I'm going to drag it here sa values. Ayan. Pagka dinrag natin sa values, makikita nyo naman po, nakalagay siya na count of sales. We are not doing the count, but rather we're doing the summation of the sales. And on that note, gagamitin po ulit natin button dito sa ilalim. And we're going to change that to value field settings. So let's select value field settings. And then let us select sum. And then let us click number format. And then we're going to apply again currency. So, gagawin pa rin natin United States po yung currency. The number of decimal places, kung gusto nyo po ay mayroong dalawa. Pero if we would like to shorten the display, dahil ito naman po ay, tawag dito, international operations, we need not actually to focus on the decimal. Pwede natin siyang gawing 0. So, gawin naman natin siyang 0 ngayon. Then let's click the OK button. And then let's click again the OK button. And with that, we will be able to see yun pong sales sa different areas po, different regions for furniture, office supplies, and technology. So, with our data selected, maybe we could go to home, and then we could go to sort, then sort largest to smallest. So, when we do that, sort largest to smallest, automatically we will be able to arrange our data in highest sales down to the lowest amount of sales. So Central America would have the highest sales, and you will see that automatically Canada has the lowest amount of sales among the different regions where Global Superstore operates. So again, yung report natin, babaguhin natin. We're going to go to design. And then from design, we have here report layout. So let us select show in tabular form. And if we're going to do that, the table and the report, actually we call it a table, but this is a report that allows us to view our data very easily. Okay? So if you would like to change your report to something else, to a format that we would like, so something like you would like to use the color blue palette, or if we would like to use the same that we use from based on the first one, so that the reports are actually synchronized with each other. So makikita natin that this actually enable us to visualize the data very easily. And on that note, makikita nyo guys na yung data natin ay makikita natin ng napakaayos na summarize. You could not arrive into this in any way if we are going to deal with our data on its own without applying the help of pivot table. So gawin natin siyang all up, di ba? So pwede natin baligtarin. Yung region, ilagay natin sa column, at yung category, ilagay natin sa row, and you will be able to view data differently. Ayan, makikita natin, di ba? We are able to view the data differently. Naging focus natin is the 3 furniture category, and naging columns niya yung different regions. Pag binalik naman natin si columns dito kay rows, you will see that the report will also change into more of the lengthy report because we are able to reflect the sales of per category, per region, ang makikita natin. So, it depends on how are you going to present data. Whether you would like to use this or the other one, again, it depends on the way how we would like to present the data or the requirements given to us on how we need to present our data. So if we're going to shift back to the original, we're just going to drag category here to the columns, and that will give us again the report. As simple as that, by juggling and transferring from column to row, you'll be able to see the difference of how data are presented. And that would be as easy as dragging it uh, from one field or from one field area to the next. Okay? So this is our output. So technically, if we're going to see that, I would like to do here a more simple one. Please allow me to insert a row here. So we're going to insert rows here. So intended that. Now, I would like to show our data. We would like to show yung sales ng bawat category with its subcategories worldwide. Gusto natin ipakita yung sales ng individual product subcategory per category worldwide. So pagka gagawin natin yon, so mapapansin nyo, no, ang focus ng ating presentation is basically sales. Why sales? Kasi hindi mo paghahalu-haluin no? This first tab will all about sales. The second tab might be all about profit. The third tab might be about this one. So we might be able to do that. So because we would like to make our presentation thematic. So ibig sabihin, hindi chapsuy, hindi halo-halo. Dapat naka-concentrate yung presentation to make it more informative. So we're focusing now on sales. So we're going to add another one. Sales of product subcategory per category worldwide. And so that being said, we're going to again go to orders. Select ulit natin yung ating cell A1. Okay? And then we're going to click insert and then pivot table. When we do the pivot table here, I'm going to specify existing worksheet. Pag click niyo existing worksheet, actually, you could transfer to sheet 2 directly. And then specify where you're going to put. Kahit hindi nyo na po i-click yung button doon, ano? There's no need. So when I position my cursor where I'm going to put my output of the pivot table, now I am going to click the OK button. So there you go. Sabi natin, we're going to include product category. So there you go. And then we're going to include product subcategory. So we will be able to know kung saan ba subcategory nakabilong yung bookcase, sa furniture pala. And then we're going to have here sales. But this time when you check on sales, it goes to the wrong area. So idadrag lang natin po siya sa ating values. Then when we drag it to our values, again it shows count. So dito natin naman i-try. We're going to right click here. And then we're going to do show values, summarize values by sum. O kapag tinignan natin, kaya mas maganda guys dito gawin sa gawin dun sa baba kasi magkasama na siya eh. So we're going to change the number format here. So number format, kung dito natin gagamitin, so currency. So, change natin sa United States dollar. Huwag natin lagyan ng decimal. It should be 0. Kasi ano naman to, international sales. So, we need not to reflect decimal places. So, to keep it much simpler, then okay. And right after that, simply right after that, you need to go to home. Always do this. Ito talaga yung magandang gagawin natin, ano? That you're going to sort and filter, then you could sort again. You can select lowest to highest or smallest to largest to smallest or smallest to largest. So we're going to select para synchronize dun sa iba, largest to smallest. That will enable us to sort based on the 4, yung technology yung may pinakamataas na sales. I think pwede natin siyang i-sort sa loob. Subukan natin. Sort largest to smallest. And that will enable you. Tandaan nyo, 2-layer sort yan. Sort dun sa ating outer category at saka dun sa ating inner category. Okay? So that you'll be able to sort the data. Hindi pwedeng nag-sort ka lang sa labas lang. Yung sa loob, magulo pa rin. Here, alam mo na pinakamatas may pinakamataas na sales at sa technology, it's phone. Sa furniture, it's chairs. Sa storage, it's, sa office supplies, it's actually storage. Okay? Then, the same what we're doing, go to design. And then, we're going to go to report, layout, then show in tabular form. That will create this particular presentation. Okay? So maybe we could have that. Okay? So nasa atin yun kung paano natin gustong i-present. So I'm going to remove the other components here. Ayan. So I would like to show yung my percentage. So kaya gagawin natin, gagawa pa tayo ng isang similar to this, yung sa sum of sales. We're going to do yung category and the sum of sales. So, ilalagay natin siya here. Magdadagdag lang po ako ng column. So, we would like to put here so that we can display something like with a percentage. Okay, so I'm going to click orders here. Tapos, we're going to click insert. And then pivot table. Then, existing worksheet. So, transfer lang ko lang sa sheet 2. Select ko itong D3. And click OK. And now, since this is very basic, we're going to do the same. We're going to select the product category here. And then we're going to select on sales. So we will transfer sales to values. And then value field settings. We're going to change it to sum. Okay? So, hindi na natin babaguhin yung format, dahil di naman natin gagamitin yung value na yan as is, but rather, as we have said, we would like to show the percentage contribution of sales. So, we're going to right-click here, then we're going to select show values as, and then we're going to select percent of column total. When we select percent of column total, automatically you're going to see the contribution. Of course, it should not be contradicting. Still, it should be technology with the highest percentage. So, next step, as we have mentioned, you go to home, then sort and filter, sort largest to smallest. And that will give you that particular amount. Now, with this much data that we have, um, this will not create any interaction at all. Okay, this will not create interaction at all. Why did I say so? This will not create interaction on what sense? On the sense that the data are basically static. The data are here. But how can we possibly create that particular interaction? Kanina I have mentioned that we're going to use yung tinatawag po nating timeline. Okay? At saka slicer. So pakita po natin, we're going to use that. I'm going to select one of the pivot table that we have. Pwede ko pong i-close to kapag hindi ko na ginagamit yung pivot table so that I could see all my data kung gusto po natin. Then we will transfer po into pivot table analyze. When you transfer to pivot table analyze, ito na po yung magke-create ng interaction sa ating data so that we can learn more about patterns dun sa ating data. Aside from learning about technology, kung saan mataas ang sales ng technology, you will know. So makita po natin. So first and foremost, I would like to click on insert slicer. Click ko po yung insert slicer. Ang nakaselect po natin ngayon po ay yung una nating pivot table. Sorry po pala. Timeline na po pala unahin ko. I'm going to click on insert timeline. So pagka-click ko po yung timeline po, automatic, i-display po niya yung columns natin sa ating data na ang laman ay date. Dalawa lang po ang may laman na date. This includes order date and ship date. So, let us consider yung ship date kasi ito talaga yung napadala na sure, no? So, we're going to include ship date and then we're going to click the OK button. Right after we select ship date, you're going to see here that this is how the timeline looks like. So, pwede po nating makita that nag-insert si Microsoft Excel ng timeline toolbar here, and that will allow us to change, for example, yung color. For example, I would like to change the timeline to dark blue, so I could use that. And I could also increase the width and the height and so on. So here, if you're going to see, I could scroll back down papunta sa pinakaunahan. So here, you will gonna see that sales of Global Superstore started yung data from January 2011 down to the latest is 2016. Okay? Sir, paano yan? How about if I would like to show it, sabi nyo, pwedeng quarterly, pwedeng monthly, pwedeng yearly. I could basically change to quarters here. Okay? And I could basically change to years to make it more simple. If you would like to see it on a yearly basis, so just try to look at it. When I click 2011, automatically, this pivot table will adjust and showing only the sales of 2011. And you will still technology dominates. Sir, how about if I would like 2011 and 2012 combined? It's okay. I will drag our slider and select 2011 and 2012. Sir, how about I would like to see only 2013? Just click on 2013. So that's how it actually works. Now, one good thing is that the timeline that you have inserted for or you attach to the first pivot table that we have can be actually attached to the remaining tables. And how is that? I'm going to select our timeline, and then I'm going to click timeline here, and then you're going to see under timeline that we have report connections. Okay? When I click report connections, you're going to see here, ayan. So, pasensya na po, madami po kayong makikita dito. Yun po yung mga naka-insert na before. Pero yung mga in-insert po natin dito definitely is pivot table 6, 7, and 8. Then, I'm going to click the OK button. Ayan. Right after I click all those three, ayun, may tanong po, paano daw po kung 2011, 2013? Let's try, you hold control, and then you click. Pero pag hindi po gumana, it's already, part of the weaknesses weaknesses po ni, what to call this, ni pivot table po yun. Wala po tayong magagawa. Hindi po natin masaselect na, sa iba pong, for example, sa Tableau, pwede po natin siyang gawin. So, pwede po, pero dito po, hindi po natin siya magagawa. Sorry for that, okay? So, I hope that answers our question. Now, halimbawa, nakaset na po siya ng 2011. Halimbawa, gusto mo ulit i-select lahat, you just simply clear the filter. And automatically, it will go back to the default setting that everything is selected. Again, you could change this to quarters if you would like to, okay? So, I would like to show this, that when I change to year, for example, I click 2011 here, I would like you to notice that, napapansin nyo po ba, tingnan nyo po itong third pivot table natin, when I select 2013, they are all adjusting to the selection. So, meaning to say, nag-i-interact na yung timeline natin with the different pivot table. So, that being said, ganun po kadaling gumawa ng interaction. Ano mapapala po natin doon? What's the sense of that? This creates totally different kinds of views for our pivot table data, for our report. So, sabi, tingnan nga natin sales natin ng 2012, in just a click of a button, you'll be able to show the sales of 2012 without creating another separate pivot table. Kaya in here, the pivot table together with your timeline, you have created dozens of different views for our data. Okay? Because you could view it monthly, weekly, yearly, di ba na, and quarterly. So, dozens po, baka nasa 100 na po yung views dyan agad. Now, let's click again one of our pivot table, and I would like you now to see the power of the next one. The next one is the slicer. So slicer are basically filter also, not based on time, but based on categorical data. So I'm going to select here the slicer, and you will see here the different slicers that we can actually use. So for example, I would like to show only yung sum of sales based on order priority. So pwede natin makita. Gusto nyo makita yung naka-order priority? Ilan ba yung nabenta doon? Okay? So, check natin yung okay. Ayan. So, we will see here that we have the order priority slicer here. So, when I click critical, you will see that automatically the sales will adjust according to only the critical order priority for the different categories of product. So, ganun siya ka-immensely powerful. So, pagka i-combine mo pa siya sa 2011, it will display the products being sold, the amount of sales in 2011 for the different category according to the order priority critical. So, yun, So, that's how we look at it. So, yung pong arrangement na to can be actually fixed. Halimbawa, gusto natin gawin na pahaba siya, you're going to see here is a slicer. Meron po ditong buttons na ang pangalan po na group na meron po dyan, you could basically change the number of columns. So, pag binago po natin yung columns, pwede natin gawing pahaba, at pwede natin siyang gawing same with the orientation of the ship date. Okay? Okay, we can do it this way. Okay? So, tapos pwede natin siya i-adjust ng konti, ano, kasi hindi naman ginagamit yung space. So, that's it. Now, this order priority can be connected again with all the rest of the pivot table. So, I'm going to select our pivot table, order priority slicer here. And then, I'm going to click on slicer. And then, you're going to do report connection. Okay po? Sa
Halika
report
kay
connection
bata,
po,
uubusin mo itong dati.
checkan po ulit natin yung table 6, table 7, and table 8. And then I'm going to click the OK button. And then right after that,
Ulam lang
our
kasi diet bake ka. Kaya ulam lang. Bawal sa mga humay.
yun pong ating order priority will be connected to the rest of the reports. Okay? So pakita po natin dito. Sorry po. So, kiklik ko po ngayon yung critical and you will see all of our data are adjusting according to the order priority critical. So, clear ko muna po yung ship date. Consider natin lahat ng taon. I set it to high. So, dito po, pwede pong gawin yung high at saka medium kung gusto niyo po, ano. So, dito pwede. So, when I hold control, then I click on high and medium, the order priority high and medium will be displayed for all the sales across all the pivot table. So that's how this particular slicer works. Okay? So, handito na po ngayon yung ating pivot table. So, please allow me to proceed with the next part. Okay po? We're going to proceed with the pivot chart. Ito po, mabilis lang yung pivot chart. Ano? So, the pivot chart that dynamically changes depending on the contents of its accompanying pivot table. So, it means to say, we draw the pivot chart from the pivot table. So, there's no pivot chart without a pivot table. So, to create it, you simply select the pivot table and then you insert a pivot chart. So, tandaan, may mga charts na hindi pwedeng gawin out of the pivot table, including histogram, sunburst, and many other type of charts. Okay, so to begin inserting a pivot chart, all we need to do is under the pivot table tool, nakita nyo po, nandun po yung pivot chart. And it will guide us on how are we going to insert a chart. So, this is what are we going to do. Actually, ginawa na po natin kanina, no? So, I'm going to begin with a demonstration now. Okay? So, I'm going to begin with the demonstration. So, pwede na po akong lumipat actually sa susunod na sa part 3. But before I transfer to part 3 po, I would like to show here directly. So, medyo litan ko lang ng konti yung ating screen. Since you have the data naman po dito. So, papakita po natin na yung ating pong pivot chart, ilalagay din po natin dito sa area na to. Okay? So, paano po ba magawa? So, I'm going to select our first pivot table, and then under pivot table analyze, nandyan na po yung pivot table analyze rather. Nandyan na po yung pivot chart sa may gawing dulo po, ano? Kiklik lang po natin yung pivot table. Okay? So as we click pivot table, we are going to select the type of presentation that we are going to use. For example, I would like to use here bar chart. Okay, so for example, I'm going to use bar chart here. So, select ko lang po yung bar chart. Kung gusto ko po ng 3D, I could use 3D para may konting depth. And then I'm going to click the OK button. So, that being said, we will be able to have our first pivot chart here. So, makikita po natin in this particular presentation, ang importante po dito ay maayos po natin yung ating chart. So, first and foremost, what this is all about? This is all about category by sales by category. So, yung chart title po natin ay baguhin natin lang po yung title. We're going to put here sales by product category. Meron po kayong mga makikita mga fields dito na pwedeng gamitin yan sa drill down eh. Pero hindi muna po natin gamitin. I'm going to right click on this field. Right click ko lang po. And then you say hide all fields button on chart. Okay? So, hinide natin. Then second po, yun pong data natin, huwag tayong mag-rely sa ipo-point pa yung mouse para mabasa. So we could hide also this one first. So hide fields button on chart. Ang gawin po natin, display na po natin yung data para hindi na po natin kailangan na tong mga markers natin na to sa ilalim. So what you can do is to right-click your data and then you say add data label. When you do that, automatically you will have the data labels now. Now, this is the x-axis values, I-right click lang po natin to, tapos po i-delete naman natin. So, we're going to delete. With that, hindi na po natin kailangan din na itong legend. So, isa-select natin legend, right click, delete. So, it's very important to determine what should be included and what not to be included in our chart area. Here in our chart, we already have our chart here. So you could basically change the way how it is presented. Pwede na po kayo mamili kung ano po yung gusto nyong gamiting design. So it's up to you to select one. So pwedeng piliin ko na to yung mas nagmamatch at mas nakikita. So I'm going to select that and that will be the color of my chart. Kung ayaw mo ng blue, yung itsura, yung guhit sa loob, maybe you could change it to red. It's okay. It's really up to you. Okay, next. Select po natin yung ating second chart, second table. Ganun lang po kasimple. Later, iaayos po natin yan. So, we're going to select this and then we're going to click on pivot table analyze and then pivot chart. Dahil yan po ay mga percentages yung ginamit natin, then maybe we could use pi. Siguro po, best natin gamitin yung pi dito. Sa mga nabasa ko po article, ina-avoid po nila yung pagpapagamit ng 3D pi kasi nadi-distort po yung data, parang malaki po yung mas maliit na value. So, most especially dito po ay makikita din natin mas madali pong mabasa kapag naka-flat lang. So, flat po yung gagamitin natin. So, I'm going to select the first one. Or maybe you could use the donut if you would like to. So, piliin po natin donut. Sige po, para iba. So, I have selected here donut. Ibaba ko lang po ng konti, Lagay natin dito. We're going to arrange it a little here. And then, I'm going to hide all these fields. So, right-click. Hide all fields button on chart. So automatically it will be hidden. So lagay natin sales percentage by product category. So that should be our title. Now, next to this po, we could basically remove the legend. So tatanggalin po natin legend, kung gusto natin. Then we're going to select delete. And we're going to select our pi here. So we're going to right click this and then we're going to click the button, add data labels. So, kung gusto po natin na may data labels, actually, pwede nyo pong iayos yan. Yung pong pivot chart natin. We could have, we could basically move this kung gusto natin. Meron po kasi yung leader line kung gusto natin, ano. So, there is a leader line. So, lagay natin din. Format data labels po natin. Then, pagka pinormat data labels po natin, pwede po natin lagyan ng category name para po nakikita po yung values. Tapos po yung separator, pwede niyo pong gawin new line para po wala ng comma, no? So, that way, that will allow us to set our chart ng mas maayos po. So, yung format, kung gusto natin baguhin yung format, pwede. So, there are other things that can be changed here in terms of size, in terms of alignment, pero hindi na po natin yan gagalawin because our time is actually ticking. So, please allow me to select this. And please let us change the yung pong style ko, gawin natin. Kung gusto natin, this one. Eh sir, ganyan, malilitan lang natin yung size niya. Of course, we need to format this in a way that we will be able to do it. Tapos tatanggalin po natin yung tanggalin po natin yung legend ulit. So kaya minsan dapat mamili muna talaga tayo ng format. So then I'm going to drag it outside. So that we'll be able to have the value. So this would be our second chart. Now, for the third chart that we have, so for the third table that we have, we're going to insert the chart for this also. So select this, and then pivot table analyze, then pivot chart. Then mamimili tayo ng chart na gagamitin natin. So subukan natin na bar din ang gamitin dito. Let's see if this will be presented well using bar. Then let us click the OK button. Ayan. Pagka ginawa po nating bar, ilalim po natin to. Then we're going to select this. Of course, hindi sila magkakamukha ng size requirement. So this one, we need to remove, hide all fields. Okay. Then we could also hide the legend if we want to. So delete. Sales by product subcategory. So yun naman talaga yung makikita natin, sales by product subcategory here. And maybe we could make this bigger than the other charts that we have. So something like that. So this one, if you think that this can be resized, so pwede natin siyang gawin na ganun. So, pwede natin i-right click yung data labels natin. Then, let's click add data labels. Okay? So, pag nilagyan natin ng data labels, we're going to remove the x-axis, yung horizontal value axis here. Then, we're going to delete. So, that way, we'll be able to format our chart. Okay? So, right after that, we have one last chart to go. And then, we're going to select this. So, select natin itong chart na to. And we're going to have select natin, pivot table analyze, then pivot chart. And for this, let's try to use, sige, subukan natin po yung patayo. We could use clustered. Subukan po natin, yung, tingnan nga natin kung mag-work yung cluster dito. Bar, clustered bar. Then, okay. Ayan. So, ginawa natin po clustered bar because that will give us a leverage for not occupying too many spaces. So, tatanggalin din po natin yung ano, no? Remove all buttons. So, yung legend po, hindi natin nahayaan na nandyan. So, format natin po yung legend. So, right click yung legend, then format legend. Then you put it at the bottom para hindi po siya mag-occupy ng too much space. Okay? And then right after that, we're going to make this big, just like what we have with the other one here. Ayan. So, lalakyan natin siya. With that, we are able to see the data clearly. And then, ang ating labels here, so we're going to right-click, then add data labels, then right-click. Isa-isa po natin i-right-click, ano, kasi tatlo po yan, nakastack po siya, ano. Add data labels, then right-click, add data labels. And if you would like to change the color of this, under design, you could basically select color para po makita natin ng mas malinaw kung sakali po yung ating data. Kung alin po ba yung madali na mabasa yung data. So, possibly this one. So, that would be our charts. Nako, so ayan na po yung chart natin. Ang kailangan na lang po natin actually gawin dito is to basically arrange this in a way that it will enable us to uh, create the visualization and the interaction. Pakita lang po natin, ano, I'm going to show you na pagka-click ko po itong mapapansin nyo po, pag kinlik ko ngayon, yung ating mga filter, yung timelines po, at saka po yung ating filter, nag-a-adjust na po yung data. Kasi po, kaya po ganun, simple lang po yung dahilan. Ang dahilan po dyan ay, nakakonect na siya sa pivot table. Nung ginawa natin pivot chart, automatic mag-a-adjust na po yung ating pivot table. Lalagyan ko lang po ng guhit itong chart na to para po siya ay madaling makita. Ano? Ayan. Kahit ito din isa, lagyan natin ng guhit. Ayan. Hindi na po natin masyadong iaarte kasi kulang po tayo sa ating oras. So, ang gagawin ko po, ililipat ko na po yung ating filter. So, ililipat ko po itong filter natin sa baba. Ang ginagawa ko na po ngayon actually ay nag-aayos na po ako ng dashboard natin. So, I would like to know exactly how much space do I have. So, pwede po natin i-sacrifice yung ating, ano, no? Yung ating, what do you call this? Timeline. At saka ito po ang ating slicer. So, yung slicer po natin, babaguhin natin, gagawin na lang po natin 2 columns. Or 1 column, pwede pong 1 column na lang kasi maliit nga po yung space natin. So, I'm going to shape it like this. Ayan, kasya naman siya. And from there, I would like to make this like blue para po nakasim tayo. So, mapapansin nyo po ngayon na eto na po yung ating final output here. Pero lalagyan ko po siya ng space in between. So, mapapansin nyo po, inaayos ko na ngayon. Ano? So, actually, I am actually fixing this. Ito po yung nando sa lecture na ipepresent ko pa sana sa inyo. But we are actually fixing this already. Because this is what I would like to happen. Magkasya po siya sa ating screen kapag ka po binrouse. Una ko pong gagawin, I'm going to go to view ribbon, then tatanggalin ko po yung grid lines. Okay? So, as I remove the grid lines, wala na po kayo makitang guhit. Seselect ko po lahat ng ating cells. Tapos po, lalagyan ko po siya ng background na gusto kong gamitin. So, something like, for example, I would like to use blue or something darker. So, ginawa ko pong blue yung background. Ayan. So, para nang sa ganon, tapos seselect ko po itong chart area natin. Ipo-format ko lang po, lagyan ko lang po siya ng design o shape effect. Lagyan ko lang po siya ng glow. So, para mag-glow lang siya. Ayan. Select ko din po itong susunod. Lagyan ko lang din po ng shape effect. Lagyan ko ng glow para po lumutang lang yung mga chart natin. So, kung mas mahaba po sana yung time natin, mas marami po tayong magagawa. But, of course, pagkakasyahin po natin, kasi ayaw po natin sumobra tayo din sa oras. So, lalagyan ko din po ito ng glow. And if these are allowed, so mukhang hindi. So, yun lang po yung nilagyan natin. So, with this one, we are already, given the opportunity. So, ang susunod ko pong gagawin, i-auto hide ko po yung ating ribbon. So, pwede ko pong lagay dito ang pangalan na So, I could actually make a title here. So, I'm going to put here, hindi pala mabasa, Global Superstore Sales Dashboard. So, this is our dashboard actually. So, I'm going to select this. Balik ko lang po yung natin. Balik ko muna po yung ribbon natin, So, show ko muna. Lagyan ko siya ng color. Maybe where I'm going to use white. Dashboard. Sorry. Better yet siguro po, I'm going to copy this. Control X. Binura ko, maglalagay na lang po ako ng insert, shape na lang po para mas maganda. Edit text, then I put it right here. Then I am going to increase the font size. So something like that po, So keep it simple na lang. Kasi nga po our time is running out. Okay, so I'm going to put it right there. Shape format, shape effect, preset. Ayan. So, right after that, pwede ko na pong i-hide yung ating ribbon. And I'll be able to show that this is our dashboard already. Kapag pinresent mo to halimbawa dun sa manager who is asking for you for the summarized report about your data. Of course, nandiyan yung data nyo sa ilalim, sa taas. I would suggest na i-format nyo yung report. Natabunan siya kasi. So, pwede natin yung i-ayos later. Pwede nyo naman po i-ayos yung report later. Pwede natin lagyan ng fill na white. Na blue, for example. Then, the font should be all black. Ayan. So, madali na pong makita yung report. So, i-ayos lang po natin ganun. Kasi po, automatic maapektuhan dahil magkasama sila. So, the same here. And the same here. So, look ko po yung entire report. Or, pinakamaganda po, pag finormat, wag po nating isama yung taas kasi para may separation po yung ating data. So, pagka po pinresent natin, you will be showing this. Then, makikita po yung ating dashboard na pagka-click natin 2011 sales, automatically, the 2011 sales will be displayed. So, of course, the 2012 sales or when you clear. Ang tanong dito, sir, pwede pa ba kami magdagdag ng pwede pa ba ako magdagdag ng slicer kung gusto ko ng isa pa? Pwede. Kung gusto natin magdagdag ng slicer, show tabs lang natin. Select lang natin yung isa sa mga pivot chart. Kung gusto nyo yung chart ang i-select natin, pwede din sa chart kasi maglagay. And then you go to pivot table analyze, then insert slicer. Then, halimbawa, gusto nyong ilagay ang slicer is by market. So, I select market here. Then, I click OK. So, here's the, wag na pala yung market. Pwede naman, pwede din burayin, kapag ayaw nyo, i-cut nyo lang. So, pwede din po tayo maglagay ng slicer. Pwede po tayong pumili ng iba. We have product category. Dun pala sa una, order priority. At saka segment. So, sa segment po, piliin po natin segment. So, I select the segment here. So, lagay ko lang dito sa gilid. Okay. So, saktong-sakto. Konting formatting na lang. So, baguhin natin yung kulay niya para nakamatch. And from here, ang gagawin nyo na lang ulit ay, don't forget, we're going to click on slicer, then report connection. Don't forget to check the other three. Kasi pag hindi po, broken yung ating connection. Dapat sa lahat. Kaya pag in-apply natin, dapat we're going to think that it should be applicable to all. So when I select here, consumer, we're going to see that lahat na naka-display na ngayon dito na sales by product category ay on the consumer segment lang. So, ganon ka-powerful na tool si pivot table at saka si pivot chart. At ito pong pinakita natin ngayon na to is actually what we call the creation of dashboard. So, the final output of our dashboard, although it's very simple kasi nga we're running out of time, ay basically hide natin. And this is our output po. So, gusto po natin mag-insert dito ng ayan. So, that's the final output that we have for this particular activity. Pakita ko lang po sa inyo yung presentation in 2 minutes. It's already time po after 4 minutes dito sa aking clock. So, please allow me to share you the analytics part that we have already done. So, basically, we're going to have dashboard overview, and then we have basics of dashboard design, and planning a dashboard. Nagawa naman natin, nakita nyo, no? Nag-insert po tayo ng slicer, ng timeline, pero hindi po natin nagamit yung trend line because we are not able to touch that particular part po, no? Because of time constraints that we have. And then, we are able to show that we are able to build an interactive Excel dashboard with the demonstration first before this video. So, So, we have our recap about pivot table. Alam niyo po, kahit nasaan po kayo yung agency, nasa PNP, nasa healthcare, lahat po tayo nagagather ng data. Ngayon niyo po, magagamit niyo po talaga to as in mag-present ng summarized data. Gagawa po kayo ng infographics na pwedeng flat, naka-display agad sa screen, pwede po siya. Kung gusto niyo po, mas maganda interactive, ipe-present, gamitin niyo po. I strongly suggest that we use this para po sa ano. Yung po mga estudyante ko po sa doctorate na nagtatrabaho sa LGU at saka nagtatrabaho po sa mga agency ng government, they say that they find this very useful. Ano? Kaya lang po mas in-depth yung naging discussion namin because that would be an 18-week long presentation na diniscuss po namin ito ng 4 weeks because we touch up all the things that we need to know about this. But tayo, we cover it in 2.5 hours po, to be exact. Okay, so the example of dashboard. Sabi nga, dashboard is a visual display. Nakita nyo, visual and interactive display. Kaya nakita nyo yung data product na ni-create natin, mayroong visualization, intuitive visualization, and at the same time, it create interactions with the user, and it provides patterns on the data. Nakita nyo kung saan mataas ang sale, saan mababa ang sale, aling country ang mas mataas ng sale, ng anong product, ng anong subcategory. So, this is also an example of dashboard. Ano? It does not only consolidate data views, but it's a self-service business intelligence. But self-service, pag binigay na sa manager to, titingnan na lang niya, dito pa na tayo may problema. But ang baba ng sales natin, halimbawa sa East America, o dapat, baka dyan tayo dapat mag-perform ng sales and promotion. So, pwede din siya maging basis para mag-create ng decision based on the data. Or kaya naman, the decision na, naku, mukha yatang kailangan na natin magsara sa East America kasi 3 taon na pala tayong nalulugi. Ngayon lang natin nalaman nung gumawa tayo ng dashboard using Excel Analytics. So, dapat, ayan po sabi, ano, kaya single screen ginawa natin, visually oriented, visual. Kasi in just a screen, you'll see everything, then you could interplane with the data. Dapat intuitive, easy to navigate. Hindi dapat isipin ko, alin kaya i-click ko? Huwag nyo isabog kung nasaan yung slicer at timeline. Pagsamasamahin natin. Pagsunod-sunodin din natin sila according to priority. Saka yung data natin, nakita nyo, other than madali nang tingnan talaga ang pivot table at pivot chart, pero dapat isort natin yung data para pagpasok niya sa chart, madali pa rin siya talagang tingnan. So there is an integration of multiple data types. So totoo, in-integrate natin. Gumawa nga tayo all-up presentation. Meron tayong naka-stack pero madali pa rin tingnan. So data frequently updated. So nasa may-ari na nung pivot chart at sa pivot table. Kahit po yung inyong data set ay mabago, tinuro po natin kanina, i-click nyo lang po yung refresh button para po ma-refresh yung cache, pa-update na po automatic ang ating pivot table. It is information oriented around is specific problem. Huwag niyo pong paghalu-haluin. Ito yung sales, ito yung profit, ito yung delivery. Huwag po ganon. Gawin niyo pong magkakasama. Kung pwedeng sama-sama silang lahat, pwede niyo pa kasi yan litan eh. Depende kasi kung saan screen ipe-present. Kung sa projector, malaki yan. Pero kung ipe-present to sa large format TV, malaki pa rin po talaga yung space na kayo na gagamitin. Pwede niyo po i-group. Yung unang group ay sales. Lagyan niyo pong division. Yung second group, gawin yung profit. Yung third group, gawin po nating losses. So, pwede po natin siyang hati-hatiin at lagyan po ng boundaries para madaling mabasa. At lagyan nyo din po ng label sa ibabaw. Kasi hindi naman po manghuhula yung titingin. Pag nilagyan nyo ng label, una sales, pangalawa ay profit, pangatlo ay losses, ito na yung data ng profit. Pag tinignan niya, alam niya na agad. So, sabi nga, extra training, not required. So, ibig sabihin, boss, ito na po yung hinahanap nyo sa aking report. Hindi mo na siya dapat pahirapan na. Ito po dapat yung i-click nyo. Dapat po, pag click nyo to, ito yung susunod. Dapat intuitive talaga siya. So, continuing, always you have to keep it simple, well-defined. Dapat alamin nyo kung sino yung gagamit at kung paano gagamitin. And there should be strategic placement. Hindi pwedeng mauna yung ganito, mahuli ganito, o kaya nauna yung sales, tapos sumunod profit, sumunod sales ulit, sumunod ulit losses. Huwag ganun. Iayos talaga natin. And manage your white spaces. Huwag masyadong malaking spaces, pero dapat may spaces pa rin. Nakita nyo po yung design ko, makikita nyo pa rin yung separation ng bawat isang item. Kaya po naglagay din ako ng border para ma-define po yung bawat isang element o bawat isang chart together with our timeline and slicers. So, planning your dashboard, you have to know your purpose and you have to know your audience. Ano ba yung mga gusto nila makita? Key performance indicator. And of course, as much as possible, you have to include time period. So, dapat yung data, dapat mayroon time bound, dapat masama yon. And you need to know yung frequency of delivery kasi you need to know when to update that. And more importantly, you have to have your data source. Yung tanong po kanina, di ba, tinatanong paano po kung mayroong bakanting data, mababago pa po ba yun? Ang totoo, pwede naman, pero kunwari, na-discover mo may bakanting data, tapos nilagyan mo ng data, okay yun, i-refresh lang po natin yung cache, ma-update na yung data natin. Or kung meron po palang datang mali, tapos may kulang, hindi talaga mabago, pwede nyo pong burahin. I-update nyo din po yung cache, ma-update na din po yung ating chart at saka ating table. Then, most importantly, dapat pinaplano po kung paano yung ayos. Katulad po na nakita natin dito, you need to have your wireframes and mockups. And you need to look for sample designs sa internet para malaman nyo kung paano nyo po gagamitin. So, gusto ko sana po magturo ng combo chart, kaya wala ng time, hindi po natin magagawa. So, always remember, hindi palaging madami ay okay. Less is more sometimes. Kung yun lang talaga kailangan, then you need to put that. You need not to add any more palabok or whatsoever. Because what is needed is what should be gotten on screen. And that will give them more information. So, these are some of the suggestions. Yung po trend lines, hindi po natin nagawa yan kasi hindi po tayo nag-correlation. And the uses of slicers, timelines, napakita po natin yan kanina when we do that. So, nakadefine po dito yung slicer, yung timeline, how to insert the slicer and the timeline, and demo time. So, we have already completed by doing first the presentation. Pasensya na po kung medyo mahaba. Kala po kasi maaga tayo makakaumpisa. So, yun po yung nakalaan sana na time na 15 minutes. But anyway, we're able to still finish that. Kaya lang po medyo mabilis yung bandang huli. So, I'm turning over po kay Ma'am Ranalyn po. So, pasensya na po kayo kung
Okay
medyo
po.
nag-cram tayo dun sa huling part.
Thank you po.
Kung meron po kayong question.
Thank you so much po, Sir Randy Sansayit. Now we will answer some questions that were sent to us during the
Apo.
presentation po. So
Basta po alam
anyone,
ko sagutin mo.
yes, anyone na may gustong itanong kay Sir, yes, please. Yan. Now in the Q&A. So, you may, yes, yung video po, can we have the video recordings po? Yes, of course, you can have, you can watch again the video sa aming Facebook page, in the Tech4ED page po. So,
At saka po baka po magbigay din po ako ng video yung kung sa paggawa ng combo chart. Meron po akong recorded video but I might be able to share that as well if we want to po. Opo.
Ayan. Thank you so much po, Sir Sir Randy. So, babasahin ko po yung mga other comments dito, Sir. No?
Opo, sige po.
Napakagandang feedback nito. Sabi po ni Sir Michael Balagulan, napakaganda po. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagbabahagi ng inyong kaalaman. Ayan.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Ayan. And then, sabi
Buti
ni
na lang
Miss
po,
Regine,
positive po.
yes po. And sabi ni Ma'am Regina, pwedeng gamitin ng Comelec. Ayan.
Oh, very good po.
And then, si Sir Jake, sabi niya po, maganda po ang presentation. Interesting po siya talaga. Ayan. And sabi ni Sir, magkakaroon din po ba kayo ng webinar related sa linear regression analysis, Sir?
Meron pong ganun. Pero DICT po yun eh. Hindi po tayo yung magde-decide po. Opo.
Ayan. I
Meron
think
po
lahat
kasi
na,
talaga siya.
I think po lahat po nabitin, Sir Randy, dun sa discussion nyo po, no? Kahit ako personally, Sir, nag-enjoy po ako using that interactive dashboard po, no? So sana soon, ma-invite po namin kayo for the part 2, Sir, if pauunlakan nyo pa po kami ulit. And sana talaga magkaroon po ng part 2. And yun nga po.
Yes po. Opo, okay lang po yun.
Ayan. Thank you
Basta
so
po
much po,
available
Sir
po.
Randy.
Yes, thank you po.
Thank you po. So, ayan. Now, we will giving the certificate of recognition to our resource speaker. Let me read the citation first. Certificate of recognition is awarded to Sir Randy Sansayit in grateful recognition of his invaluable support as resource speaker during the webinar entitled Data Analytics Using Microsoft Excel of the Technology Empowerment for Economic Development TECH4ED program of the DICT under the Luzon Cluster 2. Given this first day of October and signed by our Regional Director, Engineer Reynaldo TC. Let's give a virtual clap to Sir Randy Sansayit. Ayan. Thank you so much po, sir. And now, to formally end this webinar, may I call on our Technical Operations Division Chief, Engineer Petronilio Villafuerte for his closing remarks. Good afternoon, Sir Neil.
Afternoon na ba?
Opo.
Okay, thanks, Ma'am Rana. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon,
And
sir.
On behalf of our cluster director, Engineer Reynaldo C., taus-puso po kaming papasalamat po, lalong-lalo na po kay Sir Randy for your very comprehensive presentation as regard to this data analytics using MS Excel. Sana po, gaya ng request po ng nakakarami sa mga audience natin, you will be with us again for the next webinar similar to this. Sana mo, Sir Randy, maasahan po namin yung pag-unlak pa namin sa iyo sa susunod, nandyan pa rin po kayo. And it is also worth mentioning, mga colleagues po namin sa DICT, for their effort in making this event happen. To Sir John Eric, si Ma'am Rana, to Sir Carlo, also to Ma'am Moniena, to Ma'am Roma, and also our staff in Laguna. Thank you so much for your effort. And of course, to all our attendees who are on board for this event today, sana po may marami po kayong natutunan regarding po sa presentation ni Sir Randy. Kasi it is a very important for us to have a data in making a decision, especially kung mayroong mga kailangan natin nga desisyonan gaya ng mga businesses natin, kung ano po yung gusto natin mangyari, kung ipagpapatuloy po natin as explained by Sir Randy, as to the performance o mga ibang bagay po as to improvement po sa ating mga sa operations. Mahalaga po ito. So in short, this is one of ICT solutions to make easy things for us. So with that, again, good noon everyone, and may God bless us always.
All right. Thank you so much, Engineer Petronilo Villafuerte. Now, and for the participants, kindly fill the post-evaluation form. It will serve also as your attendance so that you will have the certificate of participation. Ayan. So, posted na po yan sa ating screen. And also sa lahat ng nanonood sa atin sa Facebook Live, ayan, you can also answer this post-evaluation link. So, Sir Randy, sana ma-invite po namin kayo kasi all of participants here, sinasabi nila gusto nila ng part 2. So, sana magawa natin to ng series, no? Yung webinar session. Magkaroon ulit tayo ng webinar session. So, ayun.
Yes, ma'am. Sige po, kung ano po, basta po pwede. At saka po kung kailangan talaga.
Yes, thank you po, Sir Randy.
Okay, well, di na po ako kinakabahan, ma'am. Tapos na po.
Yes po, kayo po yung buena mano namin. This
Kaya nga po.
Thank you so much, Sir Randy.
Sir Petronilo, thank you po.
Also,
Also po, magte-thank you din po ako sa lahat po ng participants.
sure
Thank you
po,
po for the appreciation. Yun lang, ma'am. Maraming salamat po. Ma'am Ranalyn, thank you din po.
See you the next webinar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you po. And please like and follow our Facebook page po so that you keep updated. And ayun, everyone, we appreciate you being here. And thanks again for joining us today. And we will see you next time to the next webinar. So, thank you. Magpo-photo op pa po pala.
Documentation
Okay,
natin.
I'm sorry. Can you please open your camera? Ayan. Can you please open your camera? We need to take a photo. Ayan. Sir Carlo, can you please take a picture of po? Ayan. 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 Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Next page.
4 pages po yan.
Ayan. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And the third page. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. And the fourth page po. Ayan. Okay na po ba, Sir Carlo?
Yes po, okay na po.
Ayan. Thank you so much po. Ayan. Yung lunch po, mag-lunch na lang po tayo sa kanya-kanyang bahay. So, ayun. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Keep safe po. Sir Randy, keep safe.
Yes,
Thank you
Ma'am
so
Rani. Sir
much.
Petronilo, everyone, thank you very much. See you soon again. Maraming
Okay, thank
salamat.
you so much din po,
Bye.
sir. Ingat po tayong lahat.
Sige po, bye-bye. Ingat po.